What is going on, guys? It is your role model of the IWC Gamers Goon here today with your Extreme Rules 2020 review. Now, I do want to say something. There's a lot of people talking about how this might have been the worst show of the year. To me, this wasn't the worst show of the year. Super Showdown, much worse than this. Money in the Bank, I hated it. Much worse than this. Backlash, much worse than this. Now, I do see where some people are coming from, but I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Usually I'm the negative one. Usually I'm the one that likes to pick apart everything and say, well, this makes no sense. But a lot of the matches that people did that to last night, I was a fan of. So, don't get mad at me, because usually I am very critical. But I don't know what it was last night. Whether it was just I was in a good mood, or maybe I'm just losing touch. I don't know. But last night was not as bad as what some people make it out to seem. At least for me. During Extreme Rules last night. So I don't know about you, but I didn't think the show was too horrible. I'm not saying it was by any means a good show. That's not what I'm here to tell you. I'm not here to sit there and say this was the best show of the year, because it wasn't. But there was a lot of stuff here that I enjoyed. But there's also a lot of stuff I didn't enjoy. And let's get right into it. With the pre-show, we had Buddy Murphy, just Murphy now, facing Kevin Owens in the pre-show. It didn't last long. It lasted about 9 minutes. It's really just a match to give Kevin Owens another victory, this time on a pay-per-view, the pre-show of the pay-per-view, but nonetheless, Kevin Owens picking up a pay-per-view win. It's going to continue Kevin Owens' run. I think Kevin Owens is going to be in some bigger things soon. I don't know how soon it might be, but I can see Kevin Owens possibly maybe going after Drew McIntyre's title, maybe at a SummerSlam. I could see it happening, something like that. But Kevin Owens, I think he's on to much bigger and better things from the pre-show. So obviously picking up another win on Kevin Owens' record is not going to harm him. But like I said, going into this match, both of these guys, they deserve to be on the main card. Murphy, excellent worker. Same thing with Kevin Owens. I think we all know how great Kevin Owens is. So I would have liked to see it on the main card, but at the end of the day, it really wasn't anything too noteworthy. Next, we had the New Day defending their SmackDown Tag Team Championships against Cesaro and Nakamura. I can't stress this enough. I hate it when put together teams like this end up winning the match, and that's exactly what happened. Cesaro and Nakamura ended up winning against the New Day. They're the new tag team champions. I'm not saying that Cesaro is bad by any means, not saying Nakamura is bad by any means. I just hate it when you have two guys that are primarily solo guys put together or just thrown together because you really have nothing to do with them, and they end up beating a polished tag team like the New Day. It's been teaming together for how long? But I'm really not a fan of giving the titles to the put together tag teams like Cesaro and Nakamura. Maybe it will work out because Sheamus and Cesaro did work out. The Bar did. And at least it gives Nakamura something to do, because we all know how great Nakamura is, but we also know how they missed the ball with Nakamura. He probably should have been the world champion at WrestleMania 34 against AJ Styles. So I think they missed the ball with Nakamura here, but Cesaro and Nakamura are your new SmackDown Tag Champions, and that's all I can really tell you about that match. It wasn't anything too special. I mean, it was really just an average match. Nothing out of the ordinary. It was really just a okay match between Nakamura, Cesaro, and the New Day. So it wasn't really anything that you could sit there and say too big of things about. Next, we had Bayley defending her SmackDown Women's Championship against Nikki Cross. Obviously, Sasha Banks in Bayley's corner, Alexa Bliss in Nikki Cross's corner. And I'm going to be honest with you. There was a point in this match where I thought maybe, just maybe, they would go with Nikki Cross. And that would absolutely be the worst decision they could ever make. Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss do not need the titles. Bayley and Sasha have been the MVPs of the shows each and every week. They've been the one bright spot, along with a few other people, but they've been the most consistent bright spot on each show of each week. I could probably say that Bayley and Sasha are probably going to be in the reign for Wrestler of the Year, just because of how good of a year both of them are having. They really haven't hit rock bottom. They've continued to have good years, but unfortunately for Bayley in this match, it wasn't a great match. It was actually just. Yeah, I don't even think it was really necessary to have Nikki Cross here. I think we all thought Bayley was going to win, but they made it look like Nikki Cross was going to win. And in the end, I really don't believe that Nikki Cross should be beating Bayley or even coming that close to beating Bayley. But Bayley ended up picking up the win because of Sasha Banks' help. Gives Bayley the boss knuckles. And Bayley ends up using those to her advantage as Sasha is distracting the referee, and she ends up picking up the victory over Nikki Cross. So I'm going to assume that we're going to have another match at SummerSlam, which is on August 23rd or 24th. I don't remember which day it is to be specific, but it'll be interesting to see what they do. With that storyline, I really do just want them to kind of overlook it, maybe go a different route on SmackDown, maybe go the route that I'm gonna be referring to later in the night. But it will be interesting. It'll be interesting what they do with Bayley going forward. Next, we had the Apollo Crews defending his United States Championship against MVP. This was a waste of time. I don't know why they even did it. They had MVP come out with Lashley, and they said Apollo Crews was not in the building, so he made the ref raise his hand and declare him the United States champion. I don't know exactly what Apollo Crews has, whether it's an injury or what, but the thing I saw going around last night is he might have tested positive for the virus, so that might be a reason as to why he did not show up at this show specifically. He might have been quarantining. So MVP, it makes sense as to why Apollo didn't show up, but I also don't believe that this should have even been the case, because MVP in 2020 does not need to be your United States champion, and it's just a waste of everybody's time, in my opinion. Next, we had the Eye for the Eye match. We had Rey Mysterio not even defending, but he's fighting Seth Rollins in the Eye for the Eye match, where the only way to win is to extract the eyeball out of the other man's opponent, or out of the opponent. And this match was really solid. A lot of people were not mad at this match. They said it was a really good match. And Seth Rollins and Rey Mysterio absolutely killed it. They absolutely killed it. The part where everybody hated was the end of this match. And I knew it was going to be something people hated. I knew it. Because they're not really going to have him pull out the eyeball. And Rey Mysterio had a fake eye he was holding. It looked like his eye popped out. He didn't actually. It was a fake eye. But you could barely see it. And then Seth Rollins, he looks at Rey Mysterio, and his immediate reaction to seeing the eye bulge out of Rey Mysterio's head is to puke. Now, a lot of people were like, oh, it's childish to do this. No. In my opinion, it was exactly how somebody would react if you see somebody's eye bulging out of their face. If I go around and I see somebody, let's say I'm at Walmart, and I see somebody that's just got beaten up and his eyes are bulging out, I'm more than likely going to puke at the sight of an eye bulging out of someone's head. That's a normal reaction. So I don't understand where that wasn't needed. He didn't need to puke here. I'm not saying he didn't need to. It just is a normal reaction to something that gross. I don't understand what wasn't needed in that situation. I'm not saying that it was the best match. I'm not saying it was the best ending either, but the ending made sense. And people were talking about the logic gaps. If somebody's eye is bulging out of their head, I'm gonna puke, and I understand why they did it with Rollins. And then a lot of people were sitting there saying some things along the lines of where, well, it was disgusting, it wasn't needed, the puking was just too extra for us. It made sense. It made sense. It made the Seth Rollins character look kind of remorseful for what he did, and then you have Seth Rollins being booed by everybody as he realizes what he's done. He walks to the back kind of like in this weird mind state where he's just like, what did I just do? So I really did like that match. I really did like the ending also. There's a lot of people that hated the ending. Thought it might have been a little bit too childish for him, but that's something that is a normal reaction to something that disgusting. And you had to have known going into this match that it was going to be a little bit childish with the eye for the eye stipulation. You had to know it wasn't really going to be a real eye, but the puking added another layer to it and made it more realistic to me. And I'm going to sit there and tell you that this match is not as bad as a lot of people are going to make it out to be. And I'm usually the critical one. I'm usually the one that's going to come on here and tell you I hated it. Money in the Bank, a lot of people said it was a really good Money in the Bank match. I hated it. I absolutely hated Money in the Bank. I saw logic gaps throughout everything. But this match was not the same here. So I don't really think it was that bad, in my opinion. Next, we had Asuka defending her Raw Women's Championship against Sasha Banks. Obviously, Kairi Sane and Bayley also being in either women's corners. This was a very good match. This might have been match of the night. I'm pretty sure it actually was match of the night. It might have been a toss-up between Mysterio and Rollins, but I'm going to sit there and tell you that Sasha and Asuka did a little bit better just because they had a bad reaction to the ending of that match, but I don't think it was as bad as the reaction everybody else had towards Rollins and Mysterio's match. Really good match between Asuka and Sasha. Both women proved exactly why these two are considered to be the best women's wrestlers in the world. Obviously, Asuka really solid with that women's championship. And then obviously Sasha Banks, somebody I've been singing the praise of since 2015 with her match with Bayley at TakeOver Brooklyn. I'm telling you, since then, I'm not strayed from it. She is the best women's wrestler in the world. I don't care what anybody says. She is the best in-ring worker. And in this match, they both proved it. In this match, we had a very solid match. We had Banks hit a few Banks statements that didn't work out. Asuka trying to go into the sleeper with Sasha. But in the end, we saw the green mist come back to bite Asuka. And Asuka, she's... Now, the one thing I want to say, a lot of people didn't like the ending because Asuka, she used the green mist to win, to pin her opponents. She went to spit it at Sasha. Sasha ducked. The referee had the green mist in his eyes, couldn't see. Bayley walks into the ring, takes the man's referee gear, puts it on herself, and Sasha ends up picking up the victory over Asuka. What's so hard to explain about that? What is so hard to explain about that? We've seen it done before. The only difference here, and I think the part that they didn't like, is that Asuka spit the green mist into the wrong person's face. And then there was like, well, she's not really the champion. Sasha's not really the champion because it wasn't the real ref. We've seen fake refs before count other people for the victor. We've seen that. And with the green mist, it opened up the opportunity for Bayley to walk on in there and become the referee and help her friend. I don't know what's so hard to explain about that. I don't know why people thought it was bad. I thought it was great because Asuka Sasha Banks capitalized off what Asuka does. She scouted that green mist was going to come. She knew about it, and she dodged it, and it ended up to bite Asuka where it hurt most, and it costed her her Raw Women's Championship. Now, it is listed as a no contest because we officially don't have a winner because Bayley was a referee, but I'm going to sit here and I'm going to tell you that Sasha Banks is your Raw Women's Champion because that is the fact of the matter. I don't care what they try to do. Sasha Banks is your Raw Women's Champion. I don't care if they try to strip her from the title tonight on Raw. She is your Raw Women's Champion. Best believe that. Next, we had the Drew McIntyre versus Dolph Ziggler match where Dolph Ziggler got to pick the stipulation, and the stipulation for Dolph Ziggler was an Extreme Rules match, but only for Dolph Ziggler. And if McIntyre was to lose under any circumstance, such as a count out or a disqualification, the match the title would still transfer hands to Dolph Ziggler. But they just like to make Dolph Ziggler look like a loser. Dolph Ziggler here, he had literally every advantage you could ever have. He could use weapons. He could have won by making Drew McIntyre to the point of using a chair on him. He could have just been outside of the ring with Drew McIntyre and slid in the last second and had Drew McIntyre counted out for 10. He literally could have won the match. There was literally a 95% chance that he would have won the match by the stipulation, and you knew that Dolph Ziggler wasn't going to win the match. They made it so one-sided that it made Dolph Ziggler look like an absolute idiot, absolute bum. Drew McIntyre ended up picking up the victory. I don't know. I think we all knew Drew McIntyre was going to win, but the way they made it so one-sided and for Dolph Ziggler to lose the way he did, I don't think Dolph Ziggler even needs to come ever to be that close to a world championship ever again. You need to get him far away from the title picture. You need to put him all the way back. You need to have him on... You should have him on a pre-show with Buddy Murphy. You should have him against an MVP with the United States Championship. Maybe even he could go up against Seth Rollins in the future. I don't know, but he needs to stay far away from that WWE World Championship because he does not need to be in that picture. And last and certainly not least, we have the very cinematic match between Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman, the Wyatt Swamp Fight match. The match itself wasn't better than the Boneyard. It wasn't better than the Stadium Stampede. It wasn't. It might have been the worst cinematic match we've seen. A lot of it was just really weird camera cuts. They had snakes crawl around in camera cuts. They had gators come out in camera cuts as he's trying to shove them into the swamp. We didn't have Bray Wyatt introduce Braun Strowman to a snake while Braun Strowman was locked up onto a chair. The snake hissed at Braun Strowman, and then they took it into the swamp where Bray Wyatt drowned Braun Strowman, and Bray Wyatt comes back up as The Fiend. I think we all knew exactly what was going to happen with the horror show, that The Fiend would make his return. So we're going to end up seeing The Fiend at SummerSlam against Braun Strowman. But at the end, we see The Fiend. It goes dark. And we hear the last things. Let me in. And I'm telling you right now, it was Bray Wyatt. But according to my dad was watching the show with me. He said, that was Braun Strowman's voice. I'm like, no, it's not. It's Bray. But whatever. So it might have been Bray, or it might have been Braun's voice. But I thought it was Bray's. Just the way it was said, let me in. It wasn't as deep as a Braun's voice. But we could see him joining the Wyatt family again, maybe. But Bray Wyatt ended up beating Braun Strowman in the swamp fight. Really wasn't anything too great. I guess he won the match because he drowned him. Because we didn't see any more Braun Strowman after he went into that swamp. So, nothing too special with that match, specifically. But outside of the cinematic feel to it, it really wasn't anything too special. Anyways, I'm going to get on out of here. I'm going to put this up later today. You guys will be seeing this probably around 11 a.m. like I said, like I always say, go follow the Twitter and the Instagram. Twitter at GamersGoonYT and on Instagram, thegoongameryt. Make sure you do click the subscribe button over here. Make sure you click the thumbs up button over here. And make sure you ring that bell for all notifications for when I do upload. If you haven't already, we've done Slammiversary this week, both preview and review. We've done Fight for the Fallen, AEW, earlier this week. We've done the Extreme Rules preview and predictions. And now we have the review that you're watching now. So make sure you go back and view all of that if you guys feel like you want to hear me speak some more. Anyways, for right now, it's been your role model of the IWC Gamers Goon, and I will see you guys in the next video.